Blast off.
Hey.
Good morning. Look who's back.
Hey, Karen.
Among the living. We're so grateful. All right. Well, we'll let you guys get. I actually put an event up, you guys. I remembered. So now there'll be notifications that go out that we're actually live. So that might be a good thing. That might increase our value. All right. Well, we'll just give it a few minutes to click in. Let notifications go out. Couple storms up here this week, you guys.
Here too.
Yeah.
Winds are blowing like crazy.
There was like 28,000 people in Vermont without power. Kind of crazy. All right. So we're starting to collect our audience here. Well, good morning, everyone. We are live. We don't really have an agenda for this morning, so free for all. Last week we were talking about, what were we talking about?
Oh, I have all my notes.
Oh my God. We were talking about, claiming your value and claiming your worth, I feel like. It was one of those principles in the book.
All a blur.
Yeah, everything is a blur. How are you guys doing? Anything you want us to talk about this morning? It's just been a weird, I feel like it's good. It's January 13th. I'm feeling pretty good about the beginning of the year, but there's been a lot of moving things around in my life. Sorry, my phone just went off. Let me silence that. Yeah, there's a lot of transition, and maybe we'll just check in and say what's going on for each of us and then see what we can speak to out of that. Good morning, Dodie. So for me, I am not comfortable being uncomfortable. And so as I've been moving things around in my life, like I ended up just kind of reducing time with my main clients and then deciding that that's good. And I'm still very much going to be doing that. And now I'm seeing that I'm going to end up publishing a new series of books. And Tracy and Karen are probably going to have some input on that. And as I sit not knowing, every day I want to know, and every day you can ask Tracy. I called Tracy weeping yesterday morning because I wasn't sure about, how things were shaking out and what economics were going to look like. And I just called her because I said, I know I've seen this before, and I know you've been there when I've seen it before. So just tell me that it's okay. Like, tell me that this all turns out. Because I know 8 years ago, you watched me transition, out of something and into something else, career-wise. And you remember, how that looked. And so she was kind enough to take my call because she was at work. And we walked through. And then interestingly enough, after I changed my kind of mindset about it, there was some breakthrough happened after that in a couple conversations that kind of solidified everything for now. So the biggest piece of that, though, is most of us, when you're, I don't know about you guys, but when I'm out of control of a situation or it's beyond my control, and I understand that, and I might even understand that my lesson in life for right now is to not be in control because I'm waiting on and I was pulling tarot cards, I was pulling runes, and everything's kind of like you're in a period where you're waiting, like everything's good and you just need to wait. You need to wait on the will of heaven. And I'm like, God. And I'm pretty sure that I go through all of these things in cycles myself so that I can teach them, right? Because it's very, to be in it is very, and if you try to teach that from like up above or down below, it's dry. And so I think one of the things that really works about, the work that I do out here with you guys is that it's real for me. Like I'm authentically traveling through it. And both Karen and Tracy have been listening to me now for months. Karen, poor thing, on the daily about, I think it's this, I think it's that, I think we should do this. What would she do about that? Maybe I should do this. And I am just not, I'm a Band-Aid ripper, and I rip the Band-Aid, and then there's collateral damage for the shift that I make because I make it like that. And I'm not doing that this time because there's a lot of people involved in all of the things that I have my hands on, and I care about all of them too much to create collateral damage. So I'm finally old enough that I'm like, oh, if I make this shift, who does it affect? And how does it affect them? And am I willing for that? No. Okay, cool. So how can I change things and, and let everybody do that with me so that we're changing how it looks, but it's not hurting anybody, right? It's like everyone's getting used to it. We're giving some people more responsibility. We're shifting things around. I don't like it. I tell Karen every day, I know this is a lesson for me, but I don't like it. I'm not comfortable. I want to know. I want to know how the rest of the year goes. I want to know how the next 10 years go. I want to know. And, and I'm getting more clarity by the day. So I'm grateful for that. But, man, this is not my favorite feeling. And I understand that all of the blessing is in the waiting and the being okay with being uncomfortable, right? Because when you try to force, and I wasted a lot of money in 2023, by the way, you guys, trying to force something. I did 2 live events, which cost me a boatload. I redid my marketing materials 2 times. I still don't have it. It's still not it. It's coming to me in bits. So there's I'm in this phase of like birthing something new. We're going to bring out a new body of work. I keep thinking I know what that looks like. I don't yet. I keep trying to make something, force it, schedule it, print it, whatever, not working, doesn't fit right. I don't know how many things I've thrown away and money that I've wasted because I've tried to force. And so there's something, I pulled this room that's waiting on the will of heaven, right? And there's something to be said for that, is like waiting. And that's where that conversation that we were having last week about seasons, right? My mother's work, the Seasons of Prosperity. And by the way, we are doing a class. Tracy's going to drop the link. We are not, the only place we're really talking about it is right here on the show and then in the small group. So we're not putting it out we're not advertising for it or putting it out there because this is a deep conversation. And so you really have to sort of be in a transformational mindset to understand, what we're going to teach you that day, going through the Seasons of Prosperity. And in the Seasons of Prosperity, and this is what we were talking about last week, in my mother's cycle of 9, I'm very much right where I'm supposed to be. And it's like quiet time, and it's listening, and it's waiting. And I very much hate this part of the circle. And every time I have to go through it, I just am like, really? And here we are again, because, every 8 or 9 years or so, you're coming around again to the different parts of how a cycle goes, how seasons go. Like plants don't grow all the time. They have to have a time where they're a seed, and they have to have a time where they, disappear, and then they come around again. Yeah. So the seasons, the seasons class is that's what we're going to talk about. It's going to be a Sunday afternoon. It's, I think, 2 or 3 hours, and it's $99. And Tracy dropped the link. You can register on Eventbrite. We didn't put it up as a Facebook event. I'm only accepting a small amount of people. I think we said we'd accept 25, but honestly, if we had a smaller group than that, it's even better. Yeah. So right now, I think we have one person that has enrolled so far. So if you want to get in there, and we're going to have a deeper conversation about the seasons and appreciating the seasons. Yeah, my husband's reminding us it doesn't always come as quickly as I want. Poor him. He gets to see Karen hears it every day on the phone, but he hears it round the clock. I walk around the kitchen going, what am I supposed to be doing with my life? What's happening? What am I supposed to do? Anyway, so I don't know. Oh, we just got a little power surge. Hopefully we're going to be okay. We have a little bit of a storm happening here. All right. So I don't know, Tracy, Karen, what do you guys have to say to all that? Like for your own selves?
You want to go, Karen?
Yeah, I'll go. I haven't spoken on here in so long. It's been a month.
Has it really?
Yeah, I looked at the calendar. Last time was the 16th of December.
Wow. All right.
Okay, so two things that have been my theme recently. So like my foot's still broken. And then last week I got hit with like the worst type of flu I have had in years. I don't remember ever being this sick. And so it's shifting your mindset of like coincidences versus like why are you bringing this in, right? Like, so I used to always be the person that's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened. So I'm like, okay, I have a broken foot and I have the flu. Like, what am I bringing in? Like, I'm still on a scooter. I can't. I started kind of walking yesterday. So, anyways, it's shifting your mindset of like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is all happening to me. Why is this happening to me? Versus like, why am I bringing this in? Why is this happening? What do I need to learn? Right. The broken foot was going through, I need to rest. There's a transition. I'm a little bit like in Noelle's state of there's some type of transition, like something's happening and I need to sit still. Everything I keep reading about, my horoscope and everything is like sitting still. The flu, I think, was empathy for others. I have empathy for others for a certain level, especially in the workplace. Like when someone says I don't get sick a lot. When someone says they're sick, like I don't get it. And I'm a pretty like I'm a coach. Like I do HR. Like I speak to people all the time, but I don't always understand when someone's sick, especially at work. Right. So there's something there with that. Aside from that, my newest theme, I was talking to Noelle about this, is I keep having the same person show up in my life in different forms in a workplace setting.
We talked about this a lot this week.
Before I met Noelle, I owned a company with a few other partners, and there was an individual there. And the reason why I left the company, we just could not communicate. The same type of individual showed up again in my current role. A little bit different, a lot of the same. I don't know what that is, and that's something I'm still working through, but the point is it's interesting to see the themes of who is showing up in your life. If you are not resolving it with someone, they are going to show up again, and they're going to show up again, and they are going to show up again. And it's happened to me in relationships, right? And that I can identify more. I can identify when it comes to a romantic relationship. It is now showing up in my work life. And it's happening because I am meant to eventually coach this with someone else. Yeah. Like if someone else comes to me with this problem. Right. I need to lean into it and I need to work on it. And it's the reason why, I'm supposed to continue my path in this particular role.
Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah. This is why people marry the same person over and over again, or they like date the same person and then they run and they like, oh my God, get away. And then the next thing you know, they're, oh, I'm in love and whatever. And then all of a sudden it's like, it's the same sucker. It shows like it turns into the same game. And thankfully, my mother taught me that a long time ago when I was very young. She hammered that into my head. And, so as I worked through it in my life, I was cognizant of it at least and kept asking the question, and that's honestly, that's one of the reasons that we're going to put out this new body of work, which is my mother's work and my work married together. Because you know, all of these things that I teach you, it's all I know. Karen and I talked a lot about that this week. Like regular people, they start studying this. Maybe they're 20, maybe they're 30, maybe they're 40. They study metaphysical principles. They study success principles. All of a sudden lights go on. They recognize things. I started conversations with my mother and studying with her when I was 9. And I really started practicing with her when I was 12. So she was like 30 something and I was 12, and I was her partner in her practice. Like we practiced and proved the principles together. And I have so many stories of that. And then, you know, Tracy's been on that bus, you know, for 30 something years with me because she started taking my mother's classes, and then we became friends. And so she has a richness to that as well. But I think she was in her 20s, you know, when she started her study. And, you know, my son will even be in a different space because he started at 0. And so, you know, he's got to jump on me even of 12 years. So as he continues to coach youth and really gets out there into the world and finds his feet, you know, he will be a force to be reckoned with. He already is, but he will become more of a force to be reckoned with because he knows nothing else. And really, I know nothing else either, because, you know, my mother was always in some kind of like looking for that conversation and found it, you know, when I was 9, started digging into metaphysics. And, you know, keep in mind, you guys, when I was studying all this, it was not even really well known. The things like The Secret and vibes and law of attraction and all that was not like, if you talked about this kind of stuff, you were a freaking weirdo.
Right.
You were like, something was wrong with you. So imagine, you know, growing up where that's like, other kids are watching sitcoms and cartoons and I'm saying affirmations with my mother, like before I can go to school or out or whatever. Like that was my life. And I did not have a traditional childhood by any stretch of the imagination. And I thought and felt persecuted because of that. And now I'm like, oh, wow. Okay. And so, you know, I was talking to somebody the other day, like, what makes me different? It's my whole life. I don't know anything else. When there's a seeming diagnosis or a seeming situation, like other people hear that and they like, oh my God, I hear it. And I'm like, so that's not real. That doesn't have to be real. So what? And, you know, it's how I lived through 3 car accidents that should have killed me, because when they came at me and tried to put me on a stretcher and all this other bullshit, I said, I'm not doing that. There's nothing wrong with me. Get away from me. I'm not going to the hospital. And they made me sign papers and all this shit. I don't care what I have to sign. I'm not going there. No, thank you.
Yeah.
You know, one of them I had to go because I was bleeding and I had to have stitches, but they told me a bunch of things when they got to the scene that were wrong with me. And I refused every single one. And I actually that's a story that I'll tell you guys sometime, probably in one of these books, but I got the agreement of the EMTs that they wouldn't do X, Y, and Z and that I was okay. And it turned out all I needed was the stitches and then I left. And so regular people, when these things happen, they immediately click in to what seems to be happening, and that becomes their reality.
Yep.
And I actually have a gift to show you how not to go down that route. We call it going down the rabbit hole, right? I actually have lived it. I'm 55 now. I've lived it many more times than one. And I've also helped other people overcome things like seeming stage 4 cancer and all this other stuff.
Yep.
So I believe and have proven that you can heal yourself from anything. Tracy has also proven that. She has healed herself from that. You know, Karen's in the middle of healing herself from some stuff, you know, so from her, you know, her foot and her seeming flu problem.
Yes.
But she's, you know, she was never down, you know, she was all the way through that. She was like, okay, nope, I'm not doing this. I'm not having it. So she didn't go down. She just was really just not feeling well. Tracy, go ahead. Say
Yeah,
something.
so I was going to say it's more about, okay, so we get a diagnosis and it's XYZ. You have a broken foot, you have the flu, you have signs of this dis-ease. Okay, thank you. I will not receive that. Okay, the prognosis is this. Oh, the prognosis is that? Well, I'm not going to receive that.
Either.
This is what's going on. Okay, great. But to not own it, to not call it, to not claim it, to believe in something greater. The mind is so powerful that I think some of us are so afraid of the possibilities that lie before us, because first of all, our life will change once we step into the power of our own mind. It's inevitable that it's going to change, but it's going to change for the most magnificent and most beautiful that we can't even comprehend, because we've never lived in that place. So we don't even know what it's going to look like. And do we trust? Well, yeah, just like jump off the diving board. It's going to be amazing. I was listening to a podcast or something about runners and the mile minute, how many minutes mile run, right? Let's just say it was 4. And then someone said, I'm going to break that. And it was 3. And then someone said, I'm going to break that. And it was 2.58 or whatever. And it stayed at this place for the longest time. And this guy from Africa, or I'm not sure, but Europe somewhere, he went beyond that. He went beyond that place that was stagnant, and he changed the mile, the time, right?
He broke it, yeah.
And now once people that were living right at the threshold, and he went, all these people went, really? You can do that? And so many now live in the realm of that mile run,
right?
But sometimes it takes living outside of what's possible. You don't even know what's possible because you've never gone there, and then that's where complacency comes in too, because people think, oh, this is what it is, and this is how it is, and this is what I have. And I want to shake them and say, no, it can
but you and I both know the real issue there is the work that it takes.
Yep.
The work that it takes, and the work that it takes to come up against the culture's belief of what's happening.
Yes.
Right? When I had that last car incident in 2018, there was a crowd of people that watched me climb out of the car, unharmed, by the way, when the car was over a ravine and looked like I was probably not alive inside. And here I came climbing out my roof with my purse and my phone.
Yes.
And people were like, oh, you're just in whatever, and it's whatever, and it's and it's like, no, I'm sorry. That's not, no, sorry.
And then make sure you have people in your life who stand in the gap with you, because
and there wasn't, when I climbed out, there was no, so it's like, it is work, and it takes a real certainty. And that's what the first book that we're going to release is called Certainty Creates.
Yeah.
And this is what people don't understand. You can create any kind of a miracle. The ingredient is that you have to be certain of the outcome that you desire and intend for. You must be certain. And you must be certain, even if the closest person to you says you're full of shit and you're a crazy person, you have to be certain, because the moment that your certainty wavers, you lose it all. It's gone. Okay. I did. I did, Carrie Ann. I climbed, and nobody could see me in there because the airbags the whole driver's side of the car was sheared off. The wheel was sheared off. I got hit by a tractor, truck, and trailer because the young man driving it wasn't paying attention. He was texting, and he came onto my side of the road, and I saw him coming at me, and I swerved. And he took off the whole side of my car, and I went 30 feet and over a ravine. So the car was over a ravine, which had a river underneath it. And I didn't have anything to get myself out of the damn seatbelt. So I had to figure that out. And then I was doing a lot of praying, and I pressed every button in the car wouldn't work. And I pressed the moonroof, and it opened. And I was like, I gotta get out of here, because honest to God, I thought the car was gonna blow up.
Yep.
I really did.
Yep.
And but I am so trained, I mean, I've been trained since I was 12 years old. I know where to set my mind, and I just refused any other appearance, and I climbed out of the car, and I walked down the front of the windshield off the thing, and everyone's flooding over there, police and people, and they're trying to put me in all this stuff and hook me up to I'm like, get away from me. Just leave me alone. Let me call my son. I need to get out of here. Like, I I just need to get away from, like, I got to get out of here. I got to get away from you people. Like, I'm good. I'm okay. And they were like, well, you don't know what's going to show up. And I said, nothing's good. I just had to keep, and I was all alone. I just had to keep saying, nothing's going to show up. Like, I'm good. I went right to the Timmy and my son take me right to the chiropractor. We did an adjustment, and, there was some bruising and whiplash and all that, whatever. And I handled it homeopathically and with supplements, and I got massage treatments and chiro, and, I did all of what, I did a whole, there was a whole wellness protocol that I followed. And I also eat an anti-inflammatory diet completely. So that was a huge help, obviously. So my point in sharing that with you is, like, you can transform any circumstance. You have to have the certainty. And if you don't have a practice, you can't have in the face of something like that happening, you will lose your certainty, because you will be so scared that you will believe all of what everyone around you is saying, which is why when something seemingly is occurring, shut up and get away from. I didn't post on my Facebook. I didn't put pictures of the car. I didn't do any of that. I started calling it an incident. I downplayed it. I called the people that pray with me. I never, people put pictures of catastrophic whatever. Every time you do things like that, it makes it alive in the mind of everyone looking. And every time you call Sally and Betty and Grace and go, oh my God, you're not going to believe what the doctor said. Blah, 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 blah. And I get it. You wanna like, but if you want to reverse the appearance, you have to stay silent, and you have to speak to only the people that can stand in there with you, which is why, like, some like-minded individuals, like these ladies on here with me, like, these are the players in your life. These are the important people. And some of you watching, have my cell phone number, and you have texted me in situations in your life where something seeming is happening, and I have helped you hold steady and think your way away from that. So I don't even know how we got on this track, but
it's about just transforming a situation just because you said so, and the body keeps the score. And so if we don't stand in the place of certainty, like you said, and positivity and transformation, then, and we go to that, claiming it and naming it as if it's so, it's going to show up. It's going to show up.
Well, you give it power, because every time you claim it and name it, you give it power every time.
Yes.
And so that's really important. And that, by the way, is opposite of the culture, right? Because the world says, tell me your problem.
Right.
Share it with me. Get it off your chest.
Or then they feel that, oh, really? Oh, right? I'm so sad that happened.
And I'm not saying don't express it, because it will live in your body if you don't express it, but find the ways to express whatever you need to do. There's EFT tapping therapy. There's all kinds of things that can get the trauma,
EMDR.
Out of your being and help you transform that. But, like, it's really important in that small window that you have when seemingly something is happening. You have like 30 to 40 seconds to either say, oh, or say no.
Right.
And
not a lackadaisy ignorance, not like, oh, I'm not going to go, but a strong, like you said, certainty, a strong, adamant, my body heals. My life is prosperous. Miracles occur. Blessings happen.
And for other people, right? You can do this for other people in your life too. When they call you up with the whole, you can coach them and say, let's talk about what you want to see happen. Let's talk about what's possible. Let's have some certainty about where you're headed with this.
Mm-hmm.
Let's have some understanding of what the possibilities are.
Yes.
Right? Somebody asked me the other day, what would you say your work is? To teach you that possibility exists. That's what that's what it really is.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm going to develop, this series of tools in books that we're going to start putting out. Probably the first one's going to come out around my birthday. And they're going to be like a working book, we're going to call it, because it's something that you can work through something. And then if you need to get that book again, because you have another, like, we're going to make them like that. Like, you can keep getting them and getting in there with them and revisiting the tools that are in that particular volume and keep it up for yourself. We've got to end close to on time because I have to leave here and go and be somewhere at 9:30. This was a hodgepodge of all kinds of things this morning. And sometimes it's going to be like that if we're going every week. And so I'm just trusting that the divine is putting into our mouths whatever you guys need to hear. Somebody said they needed to hear this today. So hopefully all the things that we said this morning are resonating with the people that they need to resonate with. If you do struggle with the seasons of your life, like when things are slower and then when it's fast, and you need some wisdom about how to handle yourself in those things, we are going to do that seasons class. There's an Eventbrite link that Tracy put up in the comments so you can register yourself.
Yep.
It's going to be a very small, a small group, and we'll get some real work done in those few hours, which I think will really be impactful for those of you that are already on the transformational track, and maybe even some of you that have done some of my classes before. I don't offer very many very often. We are going to do this one, and eventually this will lead to me redoing my mother's book called Seasons of Prosperity. Okay. I guess that's it. So you guys have a good week, and we'll see you next week.
Bye, everybody.
All right. Bye.